and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
So I got a call that said, this is Susan Bailey. And I said, yeah, but I'm sorry, I don't know a Susan Bailey. She goes, I'm Henry Aaron's secretary. And I went, yeah. She goes, Henry would like to talk to you. I said, yeah, okay. And he said, how would you like to fly down to Sarasota and look at our pictures? And I said, I would love to. He said, well, when can you do it? Jokingly, I said, tomorrow. He goes, okay, we'll take care of that. I'll meet you at the airport in Atlanta. Susan will have the arrangements. And then I get on a plane with Hank Aaron and fly down to Sarasota. He offers me a job, and I said, well, what team do you want me to manage? He goes, no, he wants you to be a pitching coach.
Hi, this is Phil Necro. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Most guys throw it this way. The ball back in here, hands come around, and these two fingers come into the ball. And stiff wristed, no follow throw, and just low up and goes in the bat. I hope there's no rotation on. The ball comes in there and doesn't bother. It doesn't never do the same thing twice.
This is Kyle Wright, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
One of my favorite moments for your career as of right now is actually this past week. It was a show of confidence by Brian Snicker. He left you in the game after bases were loaded. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it was really cool. I went back and I saw that clip on Instagram several times. I'll be honest, I went back and I watched it numerous times. Kind of gave me chills a little bit. It was just really cool. I was kind of lost my command a little bit there. Still made some good pitches, but was definitely getting a little tired. So whenever he said basically left me in the game, I feel like that kind of gave me what I needed to get me over the hump to make a good pitch, get a ground ball back to me, and get out of that inning.
This is Matt Olson. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond. Yeah, it's a pretty cool experience. Not everybody gets this opportunity to kind of set up their roots and be somewhere long term that they grew up and have family and friends. So it happened pretty quick there in spring training, and it was just an opportunity that my wife and I and my family thought that we couldn't pass up. So just jumped on it, and it's been a blast.
Says, Chief, why don't you race Ralph Garr? I said, okay. Said, Ralph Garr wants to race you too. So we started on the first base line on the outfield line. We started, bam, took off running. I beat him by 3 foot.
Mike Never's here. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
I'm Kelsey Wingert, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Hey, this is Andrew Jones. You're watching On Deck with Tyler.
Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
So we got some big news today. Vaughn Grissom will be headed to the Major League roster for the Atlanta Braves today. Kirby Yates returns to the Major Leagues today for the Atlanta Braves. So we have a lot to talk about, and it's a lot of big news. They're gearing up to face the Red Sox in Game 2 of a series that surprisingly had a very good Game 1. After last night's game, Orlando Arcia, of course, suffering a strained left hamstring, the Braves decided to call up one of the most touted prospects within the organization, Vaughn Grissom, and he's a guy that, frankly, a lot of you guys have asked me about, and as surprising as this is, there is a lot more news. We have Kirby Yates to talk about as well, and guys, this is something that was definitely coming. We knew at some point this was going to happen, but it's a little bit sooner than I originally expected, to tell you the truth. But the important thing is Kirby Yates is back, and we're going to see how he looks in a Braves uniform, maybe even tonight. But this is a big help to the bullpen. Those are big moves. But I do need to list the corresponding moves that happen alongside these. Of course, Kirby Yates to the Braves, and now Vaughn Grissom to the Major League roster. Adam Duvall has officially been put on the 60-day injured list, effectively ending his season. And if you don't believe me, 60 days from now would be October 9th. That is 4 days after the last regular season game, which is October 5th. The Braves also put Orlando Arcia on a 10-day IL with a strained left hamstring. That, of course, gave way to Vaughn Grissom to come to the major leagues. And the Braves also optioned Huascar Ynoa. We've talked about him a lot. He's now optioned back to Gwinnett. I think we all knew it was going to be a short stint. The true purpose of that move was to, of course, give Ian Anderson time to improve in Gwinnett. He is going to remain there for now. But the last move, probably the most sad news, Mike Ford was ultimately released from his contract today as well. So the Braves front office was busy today. Double A was on the phones, and we have a lot to unpack. So we're going to start with Vaughn Grissom. And this is a move that surprises me a lot. Not as much as Michael Harris did, but only because Michael Harris set this in motion. He was the first one to jump straight from Double A to the big leagues. Vaughn Grissom is now the second player this year for the Braves to do this, and it is surprising. But it also says something about Grissom. It says something about Harris. The Braves believe in these guys, and based on what we have seen with Michael Harris this year, Vaughn Grissom, this move is going to be very exciting. The Braves may not have a full farm system. You're going to hear me talk about that, right? That we need to replenish the farm system. It may not be as full as years prior, but there are individuals within it that make it special. Michael Harris was one of those guys. Vaughn Grissom is one of those guys. I think Kyle Muller is one of those guys. Bryce Elder is one of those guys. It may not be as packed full as it once was, but there are a lot of guys in it that are going to make it special. So who is Vaughn Grissom? I've shown you this graphic already, but I'll show it again. He is 21 years old, 6'3", 210 pounds, and he was the 2019 11th round pick for the Braves. And guys, this year in the minors, he hit .324 across 389 at bats with a .405 on base percentage, 14 homers. What you need to know about this guy is he is going to produce offensively. But what will he do early on in the majors? We'll never know that until it happens. But, you know, you would be correct if you had an eyebrow raised at this move because, again, it is surprising for a player to jump from Double A to the majors. It isn't unprecedented. It's been done in years past. It's happened before. We saw it earlier in the year with Michael Harris, and what a success that has been. It is unusual, but it looks like the Braves know something we don't. I did some research today and tried to find players that have jumped straight from Double A to the majors. Names like Raleigh Fingers came up. Names like Reggie Jackson came up. Are these guys, Michael Harris and Vaughn Grissom, losing valuable time in the minors? Sure, possibly. They never saw a game in Triple A. But I actually really like this move because I think the majors could be just as beneficial. And if you don't believe me, look at Michael Harris. The way he's been able to stay consistent. Major league pitching hasn't figured him out just yet. And these are guys that have high averages. And I think it's going to be valued right now, especially looking at this Braves schedule. You got the Mets coming up next week. There is a reason this happened. It's because this is a guy that can perform now. And if you're going to lose Arcia, this is the guy you want there. This is the guy the Braves want there. And with A-Ray, specifically for a second, A-Ray is great, but he's great off the bench. I don't know that everyday player is in A-Ray's wheelhouse. It is in Vaughn Grissom's. So again, this is a very exciting move. You know, at some point, you very well, especially when Ozzie returns, you may see Vaughn Grissom get sent back down to the minors. You very well may see him do it. But if he can contribute now, then that is what they need to do. It's important to realize that, yes, he can hit homers, but to tell you the truth, I expect more of a Michael Harris-type bat in the lineup. I mean, guys, he's hitting .363 just in Double A this season. That's why the Braves are bringing him up. So congrats to Vaughn Grissom. I can't wait to see his first at-bat tonight, and I can't wait to see what his career will be with the Braves. That being said, let's talk about Kirby Yates. Kirby Yates is an arm that we have wanted to see come out of the Braves bullpen for a long time. In fact, all year long. He had Tommy John surgery, and he's finally back in the majors and with the Atlanta Braves. This gives the bullpen another reliable right-hander that they can go to. He does have closing experience, and he has had a great career so far. He's got a .354 career ERA, a 12.8 strikeout per nine, 4.26 strikeout walk rate. So this guy's a former All-Star in 2019. He also led the National League in saves in 2019 with 41. That was his last complete season. In 2020, he got hurt, and he missed all of 2021. But this is a huge addition to the Braves bullpen that already added Raisel Iglesias at the trade deadline. And to tell you the truth, speaking of the trade deadline, to me, this seems like more of a shot in the arm for this team than anything at the trade deadline did. No offense to any of those moves. They've all performed pretty well since we got them. I think they were all great moves. But this is something that I feel like is something that can drastically affect the offense, the lineup, and to tell you the truth, I think Kirby Yates is the type of arm that can really affect the bullpen in a positive way. So I love this. I love that this is happening. And you know what? The best part about this is, one, yes, you're giving Vaughn Grissom Major League experience at the least, but you're also bringing back a healthy Kirby Yates. And that is something that, we have waited for all year long. We have been desperate for right-handed pitching, and this is a right-handed pitcher that, if he's healthy and if he's back to what he was in 2019, you're in for a treat because this is going to be phenomenal. So great moves by Double-A, and a lot of people kind of gave the trade deadline a little bit of a tough grade, but I look at it like this: it's been less than a week since the trade deadline, and we're already sitting here talking about two major players that came back. And I think we lose perspective sometimes when it comes to trade deadlines because of what happened last year. But maybe we didn't need to go do anything too big, especially if you're making this happen, right? If you have this much faith in Vaughn Grissom to bring him up to the majors straight from Double-A, which, by the way, he is jumping Braden Shoemake, who is in Triple-A, which is something to keep an eye on because the same thing happened to Drew Waters. So we'll cover that on another day. We have time to look at that, but it's just something to keep an eye on. This is the kid that the Braves believe in, and I think he's going to be an Atlanta Brave in the future as well. And, I know that there's going to be other topics brought up in the chat. I'll be glad to answer them, but this is the guy who I think the Braves are going to go with in the future. So with that said, we're going to jump into the comment section. If you have a comment and you want it read soon, I know a lot of you guys are probably at work listening to me. Appreciate you guys. If you want them read now, go ahead and super chat and I'll answer. But other than that, I'm going right through and I'm going from the start. Corey Carter says, "Let's go Vaughn." Yes, sir. It's going to be very exciting tonight to see his first at bat. It always is for a young star like Vaughn Grissom, or a star that could potentially be a big star one day. Always very exciting, so it's going to be fun. Steve Cash likes the moves today. He said, "Let's go." Zach Anderson, what's up, man? Jameson says, "That was a great slide at home plate from Acuna yesterday." It was. It has been all over my social media today, and it has been everywhere. Before we go any further, guys, do me a favor. Like the video. You don't know how much it helps me. It really does. So if you like the content, like it on the channel as well. It really does help me. And if you're new here, if you're tuning in, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications so that you can continue to talk about the Braves with us. So thanks for that. It was a great slide by Acuna yesterday. It's been everywhere. Nicholas says he's very excited to see what Vaughn Grissom has got. I think, it is important to realize that we don't need to have too high of expectations, right? This guy is still a prospect. He is still young. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. So don't have too many high expectations for tonight. But, this is a guy who could potentially at least give the lineup more consistency, which, to tell you the truth, when I planned on coming on here tonight, I was planning on coming on, I guess, about 5 and talking to you about liabilities in the lineup. That's going to have to wait for another day. But for right now, this is a great topic, and I think this is something that could fix the problem I was going to talk about, or could move to fixing some of the problems I was talking about in that future video that will come out later this week at some point. So it's just something to mention. But yeah, this is exciting. I think Vaughn Grissom, again, with the average, with the on base, that is something that the Braves are desperately missing right now. And if he can get, I don't care if he hits homers, if he can just get regular, on base type hits, and basically, if he can be anything close to what Michael Harris was early on, this is a huge shot in the arm for the rest of the season. It really is, especially heading into that series with the Mets coming up. I mean, you look at this series, and yeah, it's a gauntlet. The Braves are preparing for this, and I think this is a good move, especially without Ozzie Albies. This is perfectly fine with me, and I like it. Corey Carter chimes in. He says, man, that was a great intro. I'm glad you liked it, Corey. We're going to do some more like that. Probably rotate them out a little bit. I mentioned the other day that we would have a new look, so that's the new look. Hope you guys like it. I've been prepping it for a while. And all of those interviews, if you got in here early, you saw the intro, all of those interviews are on the channel. I encourage you to go watch them. We got more planned in the future, but for right now, that's what we got. And we have a long list of a library, of just interviews and different things. So go check out the channel. You'll find something you like, I guarantee you. If you're an older guy, there's Phil Necro, Leo Mazzoni. If you're a younger guy, there's Matt Olson and Kyle Wright, Will Smith, whoever you guys want, they're on there. But you'll probably see some goofy videos of me when I was younger. So go watch them. I encourage you to. We got a long library, and they're always a fun watch. I appreciate that. But yeah, we do have more interviews planned in the future. And you know what? I'm glad you liked the intro. I don't know where I was going with that. Nicholas says, people think if he plays well, he'll replace Swanson, but I don't think he will. So here's the thing, right? Replacing Swanson is something we can talk about potentially, but for me right now, it's important to focus on this year. That is not going to happen this year. Vaughn Grissom is not going to be your starting shortstop this year, and Dansby Swanson is not going anywhere this year. Come free agency time, we might have some kind of conversation. What this does do, Nicholas, and I think this actually gives you more of advantage here, is this does give the Braves leverage in those conversations, because you got this guy who has the potential to be a phenom, much like Acuna was and is, and much like Michael Harris has been. You have a guy like that who's coming up behind Dansby, and I look at that and I say, well, if you're in negotiations, is it easier to say, hey, look, Dansby, we'd love to have you back, but we also got this guy named Vaughn Grissom who has all the potential in the world, and we're willing to give him a shot for far less money, right? Makes it a little bit easier to get a deal done on the Braves side of things. So they don't have to go make a Matt Olson type trade if that were to happen. So I think it does give them leverage, but again, it's not really something we can talk about until free agency time and until we really know what's going on. But I'm not here to knock on our shortstop. I think Dansby Swanson is a phenomenal player. I hope he re-signs with the Braves, and I hope one day we can find Vaughn Grissom a place on the field. It may be, look, guys, we're talking about a prospect here who plays multiple positions. He's listed on MLB.com as a third baseman, so he's obviously not going to play there in the next 10 years. So I think he could play multiple positions. He might wind up playing the outfield one day. So it's just something to keep an eye on. I don't think, you need to worry about that too much right now. But I understand the conversation. I get why we're having it. And I appreciate you. Let's see. Cheese, very basic name, but a very clever name. Cheese says Vaughn is pretty tall for playing second base. He's 6'3". Yeah, he's 6'3". Typically your second baseman and shortstops are smaller guys. This dude's going to have a bat. But again, like I just said, I think ultimately, he can play multiple positions, and again, he may wind up playing in the outfield. We have a DH to play with now, so there's an infinite amount of options for him. I don't think he's going to be traded. I think because he is so versatile that he can play so many different positions, I think that type of player is something, especially, and you're not paying him very much. That type of player can reap a big reward in a trade, but I don't think you want to get rid of a guy like this. I just don't. But that being said, AA knows more than me, and he could make a move that changes the scope of this year, not this year, but next year, and trade away a guy like this and get a win now type of return. I don't think it's going to happen though. Mark says, Tyler, AA would be well served to bring you on board in the Braves front office. Your skill sets and knowledge of baseball are perfect for the Braves. You know what, Mark? I think you should send a letter to AA, and if nothing else, get me an interview with him. But I appreciate you. Richard says, Bill Gates says Vaughn Grissom, a.k.a. Dave Justice's child. They do have a resemblance. I will give you that. They do have a resemblance. The only thing is Vaughn is right-handed, from what I can tell. He's either right-handed or a switch hitter. Every highlight I've seen has been right-handed. But I do get what you're saying with that, and that is pretty funny. Nicholas says he is sad to see Mike Ford go. I'll be honest with you. I was a little sad to see him go because he didn't, perform all that well. He didn't do anything that specific. But the dude battled at the plate, and if nothing else, he looked intimidating. I mean, he the dude looked like he could hit it out of the park any second. But I hate to see him go, but I also understand it. You don't want to get rid of Enoa, right? You can only have so many spots, and, Mike Ford had to go. Richard Davis says the Braves really had no choice but bring Grissom up. There was really no one else that could help. I know Shoemaker's hurt, and I guess you're right, but they do have A-Ray. They could have brought a pitcher up and put A-Ray every day at second base. There were options there. I don't think that they wanted to do that. I think they wanted to bring up an everyday player and leave A-Ray on the bench because, frankly, I don't think A-Ray is quite there. But I understand what you're saying, and they had no other choice because Shoemaker's hurt. But to tell you the truth, with numbers like this and in a spot like where the Braves are, I look at this and I go, well, who can help me right now? I got the Mets next week, and I don't know that that we can beat them, right? I think that they're looking at this going, well, Vaughn Grissom has been tearing up the minor leagues, and guys, Double-A, a lot of people look at Double-A's, Triple-A as steps. I've done it before. That's what I used to think of it as, steps in minor leagues, which at its most basic sense it is. Double-A, and the best way it's ever been explained to me, Double-A is basically the highest level where development is still happening, right? Triple-A is really, it's the minor leagues, but it's where the long-term minor league guys go and end up and still play in, and then the younger guys are there for half a second and then they're gone, right? That's Triple-A. Double-A is the highest level of development there is. So these guys are tearing it up in Double-A. It's not going to get terribly too much harder in Triple-A. So I think they look at this and go, well, he's hitting really well right now. We can bring him up while he's hot and let him perform at the major league level right now. I really like that idea. And to tell you the truth, based on the trend of what we have right now, I look at AAA and I look at Double-A, and I think the Braves value their Double-A stars way more than they do their AAA, at least position-wise. And I'm sure there's one or two that I'm missing here. Pitching, different story. But position players, I think that's true, because you look at Michael Harris. He jumped Drew Waters. Drew Waters didn't even get the nod to come up to the majors for the Braves. And I think we've had this class of prospects that we've taken what we could get out of it. We've taken the Ronald Acuñas and the Austin Rileys and those guys, and now you have what's left over, and they're just sort of staying in the minors, right? And there's those few guys that are still there that could make it one day. Trey Harris comes to mind. We just traded him to the Nationals. There's those guys that just never quite made it with the Braves. And then I look at Double-A, and I say, okay, I got Vaughn Grissom. We got Michael Harris from there. I'm starting to see a trend, right? And this is only two players. But I'm starting to think that we have more valuable prospects in Double-A than we do Triple-A from a position standpoint. And to be fair, we don't have a lot of positions that need to be filled just yet, right? We don't. We have the outfield locked up for a while, for the most part. The infield is pretty much locked up, with the exception of Ozzie Albies being hurt. Catcher is locked up right now. There's nowhere that we need to fill a position, which is good because we don't have very much in AAA. But when we do need those guys, we're pulling them from Double-A. I think it says something about where the Braves minor league system is, and I think you need to take note of it. I'm not saying it's, we're only going to pull guys from Double-A. No. But I do think it's something to, again, take note of and just consider. Because this is the second time this year, which I don't know if that's ever happened. But that's kind of where I'm at. What's up, Yasuki Knight? He's tuning in. He says, hey, everybody. Garrett Clemens says, Bryce Elder has shown me nothing, to be honest. It's funny you mention that. Earlier this year, I was at the Darrell Cheney United Way Golf Tournament. Okay, that's where I go every year. It's to raise money for United Way in White County, and it's one of my favorite places. It's one of my favorite things to do every year. I know it's coming up. I have it on the calendar. I take off work, and I go because I see a lot of the guys I interview there. Ron Reed, who just went to Phillies Wall of Fame, I interviewed him there. I interviewed Leo Mazzoni there at one point. Phil Necro as well. A lot of those interviews you saw early on in the show were because of that tournament, meeting these guys at that tournament. So with that said, I was actually at a restaurant, and the Braves were on. I was watching it with a few former Braves, one of being Leo Mazzoni. And I flat out asked him, Bryce Elder had a kind of a brief appearance. It was either this year or last. He had a brief appearance, and it wasn't very long. But I said, hey, what do you see in Bryce Elder? And he said something that I think sticks out. And it's basically that the fact that he does have 4 or 5 pitches he can go to at such a young age says something. Because you look at Ian Anderson right now, right? He doesn't have very many options. And you look at a lot of these other guys that are in the majors that are young, they don't have a lot of options. Spencer Strider, as good as he's been, doesn't have a lot of options. And I think it's just something to take note of. So I know he's shown you nothing and he struggled, but, the Braves have, only really put him in long relief situations or a spot start. You haven't seen what he can do. I would say the same about Tucker Davidson, who I know we just traded, but you have to give these guys a chance to really, come into themselves a little bit, because what did Max Fried show you in 2019? Really, truly. Other than the postseason appearance, what did he really show you? And you have to give them that chance. So until they do, I understand what you're saying, but you got to give them time. And Leo Mazzoni saw something in him. And no offense, Garrett, but if I'm going to take somebody's word, it's probably going to be his. But again, because he has so many pitches, I think, he's got potential, and I think he's going to be a starter one day. If nothing else, he'll be long relief. Plus, he was really good in college. We drafted him in the same draft we got Strider in. I remember talking about him. The dude has a lot of pitches. He had him in college, and he was really good in college. He played for Texas. So I think he can be really good. But again, he's got to come into his own, and he's got to develop. And it's really hard to get those opportunities at the major league level when you have such a good team in general, right? It's always hard to get those opportunities. That's why it's so surprising to see Michael Harris and see Vaughn Grissom get pulled up from Double-A. Bryce Elder got pulled up the other day, but it was for, frankly, when we were down by 4, we put him in to eat those innings, right? And that's not necessarily, fair to him, but it is hard to get those opportunities for those guys. That's what happens when you have a really good team. So I think, I think it's good, but, we'll see. Let's get in here. We got a lot of you guys active. A lot of you guys are excited to see Vaughn Grissom attack the major leagues tonight. I'm trying to get caught back up. I got a little mixed up, so give me just a second. But a lot of you guys are being active, and I'm going to try my best to get caught up. Let's see. Todd James says, when is Ozzy going to be back? Middle of September, ? Let me see. I think it's middle of September. That's the last thing that I heard. But anything could happen. Kirby Yates kind of, again, surprised us with how quick he came back. But he is the next big guy that is hurt that will be coming back. He is it. Ozzy is the one guy that, could potentially come back. And when it happens, which I believe it will, I think it's going to be big. I think it's going to be like picking up a bat at the trade deadline just later. So, when I look at it, I go, okay, let's let Vaughn Grissom just see what he's got, right? Because if nothing else, put him on the bench, right? What do you lose in that? But yeah, Ozzy's coming back middle of September. Bill Gates says, is Soroka coming back this season? That's the real question. I don't doubt that Ozzy's coming back in middle of September. I think that'll happen. I think he'll play hurt before he misses the postseason. But Soroka's a big question mark because they've kept it so quiet. They always do. They always keep things quiet. Soroka is a big question mark. And I've heard, at one time it was August. Now we're in August, and when was the last time we heard about it, right? So it's hard to know. I think the important thing with Soroka, and it's what Traction Jackson says right there, The important thing with Soroka is not so much this year, which isn't what you want to hear, and I'm aware of that. You want to hear we're going to go all out this year. The problem is you don't want to risk it. If he is not ready, do not put him on that mound, because if he has another Achilles tear, I mean, you're talking potentially the end of his career. And I hate to scare anybody like that, but, I mean, that's how I look at it. At least, the time with the Braves, you start to really question things at that point. And I hope that he does come back this year, make no mistake. But if it is at the cost of another year without him, then I back off. I let him sit. But we'll see. I haven't heard on anything. That is what we know. And it could be, I know he's throwing some bullpens, it could be that, the Braves are just staying quiet and they're going to surprise us like they did today. That could be the case. It could be that he's not developing just on, executing pitches. It could be a number of things. We don't know. So I look at it and I go, yeah, Soroka will be nice, but let's not push it. And that's kind of where I think we got to have our mind right now. Do me a favor, guys. Like the video. If you are watching, it really helps me out. And, of course, if you're new here, subscribe to the channel. Obviously, the biggest news of the day is Vaughn Grissom coming up to the major leagues, and that's very big news. Kirby Yates is back. If you want to talk baseball, if you want to talk Braves baseball, the only place to do it is right here at On Deck. So make sure you hit the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. It really does help me out, and it helps the channel grow and helps me out personally. So I really do appreciate it. Traction Jackson, I love that name, by the way, like the Gwinnett Stripers logo too. Says, looking forward to seeing Grissom. Need more guys putting the bat on the ball. How is his speed? Now, from what I know, speed isn't exactly, he's not Michael Harris. He's not exactly, that's just from what I know. Now, I could be wrong, but I'll look up his baseball savant and see what I can find out. I've seen video of him. It's nothing like he's not like overly slow or anything. Michael Harris is a big comparison. Let me see. Yeah, there's nothing on here for minors. So I don't know. We'll find out tonight. But he's a big guy. That's kind of why I'm shying away from answering this question. The dude's 6'3", and when you talk about somebody like that who is 6'3", 210, they could be really fast. I mean, he's young. So it could be really fast. It could be that he's just an on-base guy. I assume he's probably going to be pretty fast. But that's just where I'm at right now. Do me a favor, guys. A lot of you are being active last night. A lot of you guys are being very active last night. I do appreciate it. But if you could do me a big favor, like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. Also, if you want your question answered, I'm getting a lot of you guys in the chat late. If you want to get your question answered, do me a favor, just super chat it if it's something specific you want answered. Not only will I put you priority, you'll be first, but you'll also get a longer answer, more than likely. A lot of you guys being active today, and I really do appreciate it. I got nowhere else to go but here, but I'm going to answer as many of them as I can. But again, if you want your question answered, the best way to do it is by super chat. Thanks for tuning in. Nicholas says, what did happen to Shoemake? I know he's hurt. I've been, to tell you the truth, I've been sort of keeping an eye on him just to see what his numbers are, but I never really saw what the injury was. It's 2 days ago, potentially significant. He was carted off the field after a nasty collision with Travis Demerit. So that is what I don't know exactly what it was, but he was carted off. So it could be that he's out for a while. So, yeah, that's going to be obviously lead you to Vaughn Grissom without a doubt. And to tell you the truth, had Arcia not gotten hurt last night with something like that happening, had Arcia not gotten hurt, you probably would have seen Vaughn Grissom called to AAA at that point. So I think it's process of elimination in a way, and I mean that in the most respectful way possible. But with someone hurt, you got to fill that spot, and Shoemake probably missed his major league call by a couple of days, possibly. We don't know for sure, but he's also, a shortstop, so I don't know what the situation would have been. Best wishes to him, but, we don't know what his future holds either. But I really think Vaughn Grissom, no matter what would have happened, I really think Vaughn Grissom would have been the guy the Braves went with, personally. But we will see. Zach Anderson says, I hope Soroka gets healthy. I'm worried about him, though. He's kind of like the Anthony Davis of baseball. I mean, he kind of just disappeared, right? And you knew that he was going to be gone for a year, and you're like, okay, that stinks, but he'll be back. And then it just never really happened yet. The thing I will tell you, and I've said this before, so if you've heard it, forgive me, but Soroka's got a great attitude about it. And I always appreciate that. I always do. And his attitude is basically, yeah, look, I'm in the position I'm in, and it stinks, but, I have I don't know exactly what his age is, but I have a 27-year-old mind and a 25-year-old arm. I have the mileage of someone 2 or 3 years younger than me. So that's a great way to look at it. I hope he gets healthy. I think he is. I think they're more than likely throwing bullpens with him and getting him ready. It would be awesome if one day we just got the news Mike Soroka's coming back. That would be epic. And I'll tell you, just from looking at this, and look, guys, I am an outsider. I have no indication as to what the Braves front office is doing. But that being said, I look at this from the outside and I go, well, the Braves are still buying in. They have a weak starting rotation right now with the loss of Ian Anderson down to Gwinnett and things like that. They have a struggling starting rotation. Let me rephrase. They have a struggling starting rotation. Even with the guys we have who are very good, they have struggled. Charlie Morton struggled the other night. So I look at it and I go, maybe they know something we don't. And maybe they don't. I could be completely wrong here. But I'm looking at it from the outside going, maybe they know something we don't. And they obviously, have gone against the grain here a little bit and got Mike Harris out of Double-A, got now Vaughn Grissom out of Double-A, made trades that no one really expected. So they've done all that and surprised us. So it's hard to read the Braves because they are so quiet. They don't make it known what the needs are. We can see what the needs are, but they don't make it known that, hey, we want this. Not publicly. They don't put that out there a whole lot. And they also, they keep their dealings very, very quiet. And I respect that. I really do. Double-A does a great job of keeping it that way because it makes getting the job done easier. But, with that said, it also, makes it a little difficult for us to really judge what they're doing. And with Soroka, we really don't know. Richard Davis says Double-A was in a tough spot at the trade deadline. Everyone was doing great. So he really had no place to put anyone if he got them. I don't know. I think we could have found somewhere for Ian Happ. I really do. But at the same time, looking back on that, and that's something I came up with, was Ian Happ. I told you that I would really like to get Ian Happ, and, I gave you that whole scenario, and I told you that I thought this guy could really help us. And I still think he could have really helped us. Because he can play multiple positions. Because you could stick him at second base and then move him to the outfield once Ozzie returns. I told you because I thought Vaughn Grissom wouldn't come up until next year at the earliest. So that being said, I look back on this and go, well, Eddie is doing very well now. And that's not necessarily, that's not necessarily obvious to, anyone that looks at the stat sheet. But it is something that happened, and it's something that I think Double-A had faith in, that Eddie would come back from his eyesight. We saw that improvement, which was a major improvement. We saw Ronald Acuna break out of his shell right after the deadline. The only person we haven't really seen, and I've said this before, I'm probably going to talk about it later this week, is Marcell Ozuna. That's the only person I haven't really seen make a change that improved himself. For Eddie, it's pretty easy. It's the fact that he can see. For Acuna, it's having better at bats. It's having longer at bats. It's getting the base hits and being more aggressive. And it honestly looks like he's having fun. You guys mentioned the slide last night. Look at him stand up from that slide. He's having fun again. So that's not exactly something you can put on paper, but it is something that makes a difference. So I look at this and I say, when it comes to the trade deadline, again, it was a responsible deadline. And a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people don't like it when you say, the GM is being responsible. Would you rather be the Philadelphia Phillies who spend stupid money, right? That goes to your point, Richard. Would you rather be the Phillies who spend stupid money, proud of it, and personally, not me. I'm good. I'll take the GM we got. I think he's the best one in baseball right now. And I think he's found his his home in Atlanta to where he is able to perform and do what he does best, and that's GM a team and lead them to success. And hopefully we re-sign him to a long-term deal soon. But that's just where I'm at. But Zach Anderson, let's see what you got. I already answered your question. What's up, Jonathan? Jeff Barry says, we need 7 innings from Kyle Wright tonight. Sure, that would be nice, but if it doesn't happen, having the addition of Kirby Yates certainly will help. But we honestly need to score some runs too. That's kind of where I'm at. Let's see. Steve Cash says, in your opinion, does this mean Swanson said no to an extension, or at least to test free agency? No, I don't believe so. I again think this gives leverage to the Braves in any kind of contract conversation. And as much as I would like to say that I'm sure Dansby would never leave Atlanta, I've made that mistake once before, and you all know what it is. So with that, you never know who's going to come back. If it were to happen, at that time, I think Vaughn, based on what we're going to see, this is a test to see that potentially happening. But I also think this was, again, process of elimination. You don't have Braden Shoemake in AAA because of the nasty injury. And you don't want A-Ray in your lineup every day necessarily. And with the loss of Arcia, I again think this was a process of elimination type dealing. And look, Arcia may come back in 10 days and say, all right, I'm good to go. And we see Vaughn Grissom either move to the bench or go back to, go to Gwinnett or go to Mississippi, one or the other. So none of that could happen. But we don't know. This probably is not a permanent call-up for Vaughn Grissom. It is exciting. It is something that we need to watch and observe. But it is something that we need to just take a note of, that this could be leading up to a separation with Dansby and the Braves. But personally, I don't think you need to read too much into it. We'll see. Listen. Hey, everybody listen to Steve Cash. Do me a favor and hit the like button. We got a lot of people watching. Do me a favor and hit that like button. It really does help me out. A lot of you guys watching today, and I really do appreciate it. Again, if you like the channel, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. It really does help me out. And of course, check out the video library on the channel. We did a little preview for that at the top of the show. And if you're watching this back, I hope you enjoyed it. Let me see. Nicholas says people are worried about Vaughn's fielding, but I think having Ron Washington will definitely help him improve. Sure, he's also 21 years old. Dansby's been doing this since 2016, 2015 maybe. So he's had a lot more time to develop, and we're starting to really see the difference in Dansby. That being said, having Ron Washington around definitely helps anybody improve. It's honestly why I think, the Braves last year, we had the best infield in baseball, which I did believe, and I still believe we did. I think having Ron Washington there makes that difference. It makes a good hitter also be a good fielder. If only we could do something with Ozuna. Now, that being said, Zach Anderson, I can't wait for the Mets series. I want to own them and have Truist Park shaking since they disrespected the Chop. Yeah, that one hurt, didn't it? That, of course, is going to start on the 15th. That is next Monday through Thursday. That's a big series because if the Mets were to somehow sweep it, you're now talking 10.5 games. If we split it, we stay where we are. So it's tough. But the Braves, if they can win big at home, they do have 7 games at home. And it's going to be tough, but I do believe they can do it. And the thing about it is I don't think the Mets are going to collapse like they did last year. If we're going to win the division, we got to take it. But we'll see. I don't know how to say her name. I apologize. But Vaughn doesn't have the defense that Dansby brings. Yeah, that is certainly, a conversation piece we can have when comparing those two players. A lot of people are going to jump to compare these two guys because of the implications that Dansby may not return and Vaughn may take his spot. I don't know if it's so cut and dry, though. I don't, because if Dansby were to leave, who's to say that the Braves go, well, Vaughn's good, but we want to win this year, and, he's super young and super inexperienced. Maybe we need to go out and get somebody. A lot of people have hinted at Trey Turner. I don't think that's going to happen, if I'm being honest with you. I think that's too much of a high-profile deal. But I do think that, there is some legitimate fielding concern there. But again, we're talking about a prospect that can go to any position you want him to realistically. He's an infielder, but he could probably play outfield if you needed him to jump to left field. Rosario's deal ends after last year, so that's just something to keep an eye on. Beyond that, he's labeled as a third baseman. Don't think he'll ever play there. But, third base, first base, and second base are locked up for a few years, so everybody is eyeing that shortstop spot. Don't forget about left field. And it may be that, after this, they go, okay, Vaughn's great. He's good. We're going to keep him. He's not going anywhere. We're going to put him on the team at some point, but we're going to let him have a year in AAA. Right? Nothing wrong with that. We're going to let him have a year in AAA, get developed while we still have Rosario on a 2-year deal. We're going to do that, and then once Rosario ends, we're going to cut ties with him. We're going to call Vaughn Grissom up. We're going to stick him in left field. That's just something to keep an eye on. And based on the way things are going, based on how things have developed, based on who they've re-signed, who they've kept, that could be what happens. It could be that they re-signed Dansby to a team-friendly deal and they cut ties with Vaughn Grissom at the trade deadline next year. Just throwing that out there. It could happen. So, again, just something to keep an eye on, just something to consider. But right now, I don't think that needs to be the focus. The focus needs to be winning the division, and we have both of those guys to do it with. That's what's exciting about this. Oren says, good to see Ronald breaking out. I could care less if he's hitting it a mile, if he can't get on base, or if he can get on base and cause chaos. Yeah, Ronald Acuna on the base pass is chaos, and that's a good thing. And, I think if Ronald can keep playing like that, and if Ozuna could break out and Rosario keeps playing like he's doing, whether or not we win the NL East is irrelevant because we're going to have a heck of a wild card series if those guys are all on their game. So we will see how it goes, but I think it's a matter of time before we find out. Richard Davis says Dansby is a spark for this club. A lot of folks talking about the Dansby Vaughn Grissom stuff tonight. He says Dansby is the spark for this club. That is worth something. I agree with you. I think he's really stepped up as a leader. I think he's the guy that all the reporters go to after the game to get the team feel, to get how the team feels and that kind of thing. I think he's the guy that steps up and goes and talks to the pitcher to calm him down, does all the right things. And, I do think he has been a leader. That being said, money makes a difference. I hate to break it to you guys. If we saw Freddie leave, just don't be too caught off guard. I don't think it's going to happen, but at the same time, I didn't think Freddie would ever happen. So that's kind of where we're at. Cletus says, do you think Vaughn was the second option to Shoemake? Based on stats alone, I would say yes. Because you're talking about the difference of a career 315 hitter in the minors to a now 230 hitter, not a lot of home run power in Shoemake. All due respect to the guy. He was a top prospect at one time. I think Vaughn Grissom has taken that title. I mean, you're talking about the number one prospect on the team in Vaughn Grissom. That is who we're talking about here. So, yes, I think he is definitely, was the first option. But in terms of Shoemake, I mean, you're talking about, who's further along. Shoemake is further along. So, it depends on what you want, right? Do you want to bring up Vaughn Grissom and waste an option? Do you want to bring up Vaughn Grissom and do that? Or do you want to bring up Shoemake, waste an option, because he's probably not going to be with the team too long, and you let him come up for 10 days and bring Garcia back? It's all about what the team feels is right. So it's hard to say, but I think the Shoemake thing made it an easier choice. The Shoemake injury certainly made it an easier choice. But we'll see. Chuck Black has joined the chat. That is a name I haven't heard in a long time. Good to hear from you, man. He says, when are we getting rid of Ozuna? As soon as we can find someone to take him for $16 million a year, which is going to be easier said than done. I wrote this entire script out today about liabilities in the lineup, and he is probably number one. So that'll come out later this week if you're looking for it, Chuck. Obviously, we got bigger news to talk about, bigger current news that I rushed home to talk about. But I appreciate that question. Maybe I'll answer it later this week. I might add a page for you. Medic 4 Outdoors Anthony says, I agree, Chuck. Yeah, a lot of guys aren't too thrilled with Ozuna's performance. I don't want to get too far into it because I am releasing that video this week, and I'll kind of give you my thoughts there. But I do appreciate it. Let me see. Jeff Barry says, O'Neal Cruz, another tall infielder for the Pirates. The guy is 6'7" and super athletic. Yeah, look, guys, at one time, everybody's talking about the height for Vaughn Grissom, in case you're just tuning in. He is a very tall guy. He's 6'3", and very, he's athletic, though. But he is 6'3". He's a big guy, not a typical infielder. I get all that. But let me also say that just about every player in the Major League Baseball is tall. So that is just one part. I would also say that Cal Ripken Jr. at one time was not exactly what a shortstop was supposed to be. Before Cal Ripken, how many shortstops were hitting the ball over the fence all the time? Not very many. Cal Ripken changed the game. I would say that, isn't George Springer pretty tall? It's just something, not George Springer, Carlos Correa. He's pretty tall too. So I think it's just, we'll see what he looks like before we go making a judgment, right? Richard Davis, they did not bring him up to sit on the bench. I say he starts tonight, bats ninth. He could. I think ninth might be Michael Harris's spot because I actually really like Harris in that spot. He may be a 7-hole, 8-hole. I think he's definitely going to be in the bottom third. But, we'll see. He's going to be somewhere where he's going to see a lot of fastballs, I would assume. But we will see. I agree with you. They didn't bring him up to let him sit the bench. I think he does start tonight. I don't believe the Braves have dropped the roster yet. If they do while we're on here, I will try my best to pay attention to that. But for right now, it's all we can really do. But he is starting tonight. That I can agree with. Gary Gibson, do you think Ozzie can come back this year and can Grissom play a good second base? Yes, he can play a good second base. He wouldn't be called up if he couldn't. And Ozzie, yes, I think it'll be mid-September, as quick as I can answer it. Oren Griswold, I know I'm probably way behind on all these guys. Appreciate you guys. Okay, Just Inventory does say the lineup has already been released. He's batting ninth. Thank you for that. Yeah, so he is batting ninth. Guys, as I said, I am reading from way in the back of these chats. I'm way up there. I told you I'm going in order. That's all I can really do. But a lot of you guys to answer. If you want your question answered, all you got to do is super chat, and I'll jump right on it. I'll skip everybody else to get to you. It's like a fast pass at Six Flags. But that's all I can really do. Let's see. Oren Griswold says, interesting news. The Cubs have announced that they won't be picking up Jason Hayward's option for 2023, and he put some eyeball emojis. Yeah, we talked about this for a second the other night. I think it was 2 nights ago. We talked about it for a second. I don't think the Braves are going to be interested in that past Guillermo Heredia type role. I just don't see it. I think Hayward's best days are behind him. They're not going to pay him any kind of money, though they won't have to, more than likely. But that being said, it is something to keep an eye on, I guess. But, yeah, I don't think it's... I just don't think it's going to happen. It would be nice to see Hayward have a return in Atlanta, but with an outfield that has Michael Harris in it, Ronald Acuna in it, and now Eddie Rosario in it, and maybe next year Vaughn Grissom in it, I just don't see it. Now, I could be wrong. We've had an influx of a lot of bench bats over the past few years, so it's not unprecedented to think that Jason Hayward could have a return in Atlanta. But I just don't think that's where the Braves are going to want to go, personally. Chuck Black, if AA is the highest... This is why I like Chuck Black right here. If AA is the highest level of development, when does Ozuna go to AA? I got you, Chuck. I promise I got you later this week, but I'm not doing it tonight. I appreciate the comment, though. Nicholas, you talking to somebody? Yeah, interesting move, absolutely. Jesse Lancaster says, I kind of think we need a catcher of the future to pair with William. I don't disagree with that. We don't really have anybody in the minors that sticks out. Darno's not going anywhere. I got a feeling we're going to re-sign Darno. We do have Manny Pena, on a couple-year deal. He'll probably get traded, I would say. But I would say Travis is likely going to be re-signed for at least a few years. I mean, he's not like super old or anything. He's obviously still performing at the plate and behind the plate. So I think we'll probably re-sign him. I think we like Travis. I think he's had his best years here, and I think it'll be fairly easy to get him back. But William is definitely a guy we're going to have for a long time, and, you got to think about that kind of thing. But, I would also say this. It's not always a pairing. Sometimes it's a mentor and a learner, right? That's what I hear from these guys. That's typically the way it goes, and you raise up the catcher behind you. But, yeah, I kind of agree with you because we have, like, no one in the minors as far as I know when it comes to catching. Someone's there, but no one to the level of William Contreras or what Shea Langoliers was. And those two guys were what I was looking at going, well, we might have quite the pairing in a few years. And, of course, we traded Shea Langoliers for Matt Olson. But we will see. Nicholas says they may not be related, but the name Grissom always brings excitement to the Braves. It's funny you say that. Marquise is kind of a friend of mine in a way, just because he's just a goofy dude. I love Marquise Grissom. He's one of my favorite guys to talk to. I think he's hilarious. I've interviewed Marquise. It's actually what I'm looking for. But yeah, he is he is funny. And Marquise is obviously not the father, but it is an interesting point to make for sure. They are not related. I've gotten that question so many times. No, they're not related. William Fulgham. All right, this is a good question. It's another question about Swanson, but if Grissom comes up and kills it for the rest of the season, does that affect Swanson off-season deal? Well, that's kind of what I was talking about, right? Because if Grissom was to come up, let's just say he comes up and absolutely lights it on fire. If that were to happen, I'm not saying that the Braves don't re-sign with Dansby. In fact, I think it makes it easier to re-sign with Dansby. I think it might happen before the end of the year if that were to happen. Because it gives the Braves leverage, okay? Everybody remember Austin Riley's rookie year, okay? We had Josh Donaldson at the time. Josh Donaldson, who was a former MVP, had a great year. Everybody wanted him back. And I understood it, but I also knew we had a young guy named Austin Riley who was absolutely killing the ball for a while. And the Braves did not make a competitive offer because they felt like they did not need to. And again, I'm not saying that that's going to happen here, but it gives them the option to do so. Again, I don't think it's going to happen, but it could, And I look back at the Riley deal, and I look back at his rookie year and what people thought, and I go, wow, who would have thought back then that we would sign him to the biggest contract in Braves history? So it's just something to take note of. Riley has been phenomenal since that happened. He has been the most consistent hitter for the Braves. And, I think ultimately you have to consider that. You have to take notice of it. And you have to look at the same situation now with these two guys who are both very good players in general, but you have one who is young in Vaughn Grissom, who's phenomenal in the minor leagues. And then you have one who is Dansby Swanson, who's having an MVP caliber season. So I look at it and I go, there's multiple ways this could go. That's why I never really give you a clear answer. By the way, William, I appreciate the super chat. I never really give you a clear answer here because there are multiple ways it can go. And it's exciting to talk about. It always is. But you have to realize that Swanson does want to get paid, and the Braves want to get the best deal they can get. And if it means that, hey, we have this prospect here who is killing it in the minors, why should we pay you all this money when we have this guy ready to go who could potentially be the next Austin Riley? Again, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's just something to keep in mind. That's how negotiations work in baseball. So it's just something to keep in mind of. Great question, William. Thank you for the super chat. We have another one. By the way, guys, this is how you get your questions answered quickly. Caleb Smitherman says, with Grissom being our only prospect in the top 100 and now being called up, where does this leave our farm system? We have to be close to the bottom. Well, we'll have to wait until the updated list comes out. I don't think that list is necessarily reflective of everything. And what I mean by that is you can look at it for what it is, right? The Dodgers, I think, have the best one, the last update I saw. But you can look at that for what it is, but then I look at, well, what do we need prospects for? And hear me out, right? I'm looking at the Braves right now. Again, you have Riley locked up for 10 years. Olsen locked up for forever. Ozzie locked up till 2026 or 27. Contreras, who hasn't even hit arbitration yet. Michael Harris hasn't hit arbitration yet. Ronald Acuna is locked up for 10 years. Max Fried needs to be locked up. Dansby's going to have to be locked up. You know, there's some pitchers there. But I look at it and go, why do we need all these prospects if we have a great team? Now, the Dodgers, what they're able to do is they have all these prospects because look at what they have on the field. They have guys that they either raised up and are still performing, Justin Turner, Cody Bellinger, they have those guys. And then they have guys that they went and got. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, they have those guys. Trey Turner, they have those options. So they're going to have a good farm system. We don't go out and buy guys. We raise them up. And then they play for us for a long time. That's how the Braves operate. So yes, the farm system is depleting, but if you're refilling your major league system, then what's the difference, right? I mean, what is the true impact there? A similar situation happened back in, when we started the rebuild back in 2014. When that happened, we basically emptied our major league system and refilled it with prospects so that we could have this boost period now. That's what we're seeing. Now, I think at some point we're going to have to replenish the minor leagues. I think at some point that's going to happen because at least you want to have some trade pieces. And we do have some, but you want to have some quality trade pieces. Because imagine at one time what a Christian Pache or a Drew Waters could have gotten you, right? We didn't get anything for him other than a draft pick, and one was half of Matt Olson. But Christian Pache could have brought so much more at one time, and we didn't do it. So it's just something to keep in mind of. But in terms of the farm system, yes, the league is depleting, or the farm system is depleting. But again, what's your reward there? You have to look at that. I think it's worth it. I would like to get some prospects, probably like you would too. But that's kind of where I'm at with it. It's yes, but look at what you're getting for it. So just something to keep in mind. Thank you for that, Caleb. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for the super chats again. That is the best way to get me to answer a question is by paying me. I hate to break it to you. That's the best way I can do it. It's the only way I can limit. And I always try to give you a little bit longer of an answer. I hope I answered both of your questions. That is for Caleb and for William. Thank you for that. Thank you for the support. And again, thank you everybody for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. You guys have been awesome tonight. Do me a favor, hit the bell for notifications, like the video. That is the most important thing you can do. If you don't want to super chat me, at least like the video. It really does help me out and get the video out there. Let's see what we got in the chat. Let's see. Jameson Taylor says Austin Riley is doing amazing. Well, that's why he got the biggest deal in Braves history, right? It's because he's doing phenomenal. He's in the MVP conversation. I thought he should have been more in the MVP conversation last year. I didn't think he'd win it, but I thought he should have gotten a little bit more respect for what he did last year. He has been the Braves' most consistent hitter now 2 years in a row, and I think he has done absolutely great. Hopefully it stays to be that, and hopefully he has a great career in a Braves uniform for the next 10, Let's see. Richard Davis says he wants Travis d'Arnaud signed back this winter for 2 years. It would be great. Truly, it would. I wouldn't. I just said a few minutes ago, I'd love that. I think having him around to frankly mentor a young William Contreras would be great. I think it would fit the team well. I think Travis fits the team well. I think he likes being on the Braves, and I think it works exceptionally well. But again, we'll have to see. Nicholas says Fultonevich never panned out. He showed talent, but he never did anything huge. Now I'm going to tell you, I interviewed Fultonevich. I like Fultonevich. I got to know him. That being said, I agree with you. He did do some big stuff. A lot of people remember, the NL. Was it Division Series? I think it was the Division Series. Then the NLDS versus the Cardinals, Game 5. Everybody remembers that, and they stick to that. Fulte had a great Game 2. Phenomenal Game 2. And a lot of people forget that. So it's just, I know he didn't exactly ever reach his potential, as they say, but I thought Folty, it's just tough. The circumstances of his, decline were a little bit unfortunate with COVID and everything. I hate it, but that's the way it goes sometimes, right? That's why you have to know when to pull the plug sometimes. Bill Gates says, Andrelton Simmons got released. Any chance the Braves pick him up for bench depth? A lot of people are talking about the waiver wire. A lot of people are talking about that. I mentioned it. Didi Gregorius is out there. I thought he could be a good second base fill-in. Andrelton Simmons is out there. I know that could happen, but I don't think his bat is there. Didi is interesting because his bat has been there before on a consistent level, and you wouldn't pay him hardly anything. Same for Andrelton, I guess. It would be nice. I mean, look, I always like a good reunion. I just don't see it happening. But then again, because here's the thing, where do you put him once Ozzie comes back, right? With a prospect, you can send them down to AAA, and they can get valuable time there. For Andrelton Simmons, you're wasting his time. So I don't know. You also got to convince Simmons to come back. It's just tough. Look, I think it'd be great. I'd love to see a reunion there, but it's a little bit of wishful thinking, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it is a little bit of wishful thinking. Nicholas says Brandon Beachy was another guy, but Beachy was always hurt. Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing. Some guys just never quite live up to their potential, and it's a shame, but that's the way. I mean, look, guys, I hate to break it to you. I don't know how many of you guys have played Major League Baseball, but I haven't, and it's for one reason. It's hard, and not everybody can do it. So it's tough that way sometimes. On the go with CeeLo says, what's up, y'all? Big win last night. It was a big win, a good win. Let's see. Matthew says, hey, Tyler, do you think the Braves called up Grissom to see if he's good enough to replace Swanson next season so they could spend his money on outfield or pitching instead? Sure, I don't think they're necessarily not testing the waters. I mean, they'd be stupid to let this guy come up and not take a look to see, okay, could this guy be ready next year? I mean, I'm sure they're considering it. But you also have to think that they've already done their homework on this kid, right? Double-A, Alex Anthopoulos was watching Michael Harris in Double-A at one point because I'm sure he knew, hey, this guy could help us right now, right? So I'm sure they've done their homework on this guy. I'm sure they know exactly what he can bring. But I would say that it's probably going to either prove some things right or prove some things wrong. When it comes to Swanson, I think they want to bring Swanson back. I do. But that being said, they have to explore all options. So, yes, I think they're taking a peek. I don't think it's as serious as some people are going to make it. But, that's just for me. That's just how I feel. On the go with CeeLo, he's being real active in the chat. He says, can we waive Ozuna, please? On the go with CeeLo, we're going to talk about later this week. We're going to talk about liabilities in the lineup, and I don't think there's any bigger one than Ozuna. So stay tuned for that. If you're not subscribed, I suggest you do so. You'll get the notification when it drops. That will not be a live. That will likely be a pre-recorded thing, but it will be on the channel this week nonetheless. Ozuna 1 for 19 in the last at bats. It's tough. The problem with waiving Ozuna, I'll say this. The problem with waiving Ozuna is, for one, you got to get a team to pick up his salary, at least some of his salary. And you're paying him $16 million a year. He's hitting, 209 or something like that right now. And he's got 19 homers, but, he can't come through in clutch situations. I think Ozuna got in a slump that he just never got out of. I think he's trying to do too much, and we're going to talk about the specifics of it later this week, but I think the discipline is a problem, that type of thing. The numbers do prove it, and we'll get into the numbers later this week, but that's all I can really say. Looks like Stellar is here. That's a name I haven't heard in a while. Good to hear from you, man. He comes in with a super chat, which means I'm going to have to jump to the bottom and say, when Riley was extended, there was a report saying that Double-A was eyeing a top 5 payroll. If that's the case, would it mean adding $40 million per year? Now, I don't know exactly what you mean here. I don't know if you mean that you want to add a $40 million player or you want to add $40 million in general. So if you're adding a $40 million player, you're talking, Jacob deGrom type money. Now, that being said, I think they probably are looking at a top 5 payroll. I think that is legit. That came from Mark Bowman, who is on top of it there in Atlanta. If anybody knows, he does. But I also think they're looking at re-signing a lot of guys that aren't re-signed yet. I used to show you that timetable that had everybody. I haven't updated it, so I can't show you. But I used to show you that, and it was, basically all these guys are locked up, and you don't want to lock up everybody. You want to have some flexibility. But there are guys that are fundamental to the future success of the Braves that are not locked up. Max Fried is number 1 on that list. I'm sorry, I know Dansby's a free agent this year, but Max Fried is the guy that we've got to lock up, and we need to lock him up sooner rather than later. You're talking about a guy that grew up to being a Dodgers fan. You don't want him going to L.A., and you're talking about a guy who has been the heart and soul of the starting rotation for the past number of years. And, I look at that, and I think they're going to want to re-sign him. They are going to want to get Dansby, but I think they're going to want to get Dansby for the right deal. So I look at it, and I say, okay, you got a few options. And this is why I don't think we're going to go get DeGrom. I remember when that rumor came out. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think you're going to see a major bat come to the Braves. Well, you could, I guess, but I don't think so. That's not really ever how they work. They do have occasional go big moments, but I don't think it's going to be $40 million big. I think it's going to be more so extending the guys who need to be extended and getting those guys back and shoring those deals up. Max Fried is a must-sign. Dansby Swanson, you have options, sure, but I do think he is a guy they're going to want to get. Max Fried is number 1 on that list. And let me re-emphasize, Max Fried is the number 1 on that list. So, Stellar, I appreciate the super chat. Again, if you want your question answered, you can super chat it, and I'll answer it right now. That is the best I can do for the time being. Other than that, I've got to get back where I was and answer as many questions as I can. You guys are being very active tonight, and I do appreciate it. Let's see. Yeah, Richard Davis says, I could see the Braves inviting Hayward to spring training. What's $1 million in MLB? Agreed. I mean, look, we had Felix Hernandez a couple years. We've had Bautista at a time or two. Anything can happen. I just don't want you guys to expect Hayward to come in and be a fundamental part of the team. I just don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, any kind of reunion with Hayward or Andrelton Simmons or anybody like that is interesting. It always catches an eyebrow for sure. But I don't think it's going to be necessarily what they do. But that's kind of what I think. Jorge says, hey, Tyler, this is an awesome day. Yeah, it is. I'm excited to see Vaughn Grissom tonight. I've heard a lot of you guys talk about him. I know a lot of you guys that are in the Mississippi area specifically are very excited for this guy, and rightfully so. But we will see. We will see. On the go with CeeLo back in the chat, and he says, wish we would have gotten Robertson from the Cubs as well. I said that. I was on that. I wanted David Robertson. He had a sub-2 ERA. He had a great strikeout per 9 rate, and I wanted him. Oh, I wanted him. I wanted him or I wanted Anthony Bass. Those are the two guys. Of course, they both get traded, and we don't get them. But I thought Raisel Iglesias was solid. I thought that's a good move, and now with the addition of Kirby Yates, I think we're set because, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, we have now 3 closers, maybe even 4, and a couple of other guys that could close on a lot of different teams. But you have Kirby Yates, now on the Major League roster, Raisel Iglesias, and Kenley Jansen. And again, you may have more, but those are legit 3 closers that can close games. So I think it's good. I think we've made a good move, but we will see. Let me see. Matthew Brittingham. Hey, Tyler, do you think Spencer Strider and Michael Harris both finished 1 and 2 in Rookie of the Year voting? When is the last time one team had both of the top 2 rookies in the league 1 year? I couldn't answer that question if I tried. I think they could. I think they could be co-Rookie of the Year. That being said, they both still have to perform for another 51 games, so that's got to happen. But, yes, I do think that could happen. Right now, with Spencer Strider's last start, you could kind of say, well, Michael Harris is doing a little better. They've both been very, very good this year. They both have a lot of potential, and they both have a very good case for the Rookie of the Year. And because they're both teammates and because they've both been so great in different ways, one can't possibly be measured up against the other. You have a pitcher and you have, a guy who's a contact hitter, gets on base, steals bases, is a great defensive player. Because you can't measure those two guys against each other than maybe WAR, I look at it and I go, yeah, both of those can be co-rookie of the years. No problem. I mean, they've both been so great for the Braves, and they've both been they've been better than some of our starters that have been here for a while. And that says something, and it says a lot. But they have both been very, very good. And I think they're going to be very, very good for a long time. Cody Thomas says they need to look at offloading Ozuna. All right, I'm going to just say this now. With Ozuna, I think they definitely tried to offload Ozuna at the deadline. I think that was probably within the top 3 or 4 priorities other than getting what we needed. Ozuna, again, has the potential to carry a team when he is on, but he has been off all year long. We know that. We're paying him too much to trade, though. Good luck getting rid of him, as best I can say. At this point, I think you got to run him out there. You got to hope that you can get something out of him. But I'll just tell you this. I looked at Baseball Savant today. Compare it year to year. The speed is down. The hard hit rate is down. The barrels are down. All that is down, and it's not good. The biggest thing I can tell you is the chase rate. How much is he going out of the zone? That's kind of where I'm at with Ozuna. That's his biggest issue. Again, we're going to talk about it a lot more in depth later this week. I don't want to get too much into it. But yeah, Ozuna's an issue. It is an issue. It is probably the one blemish that I look at where we really thought we were going to get something under Alex Anthopoulos' rule, where we really thought we were going to get something and we didn't. And it's not necessarily anybody's fault, but it did happen that way and it did go that way. Hey guys, before I answer Jorge's super chat, do me a favor, like the video, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay updated with everything we got going on here. And please, please, please subscribe if you are new here and you like the content. It does help me out a ton. And of course, you liking the video gets it out to more Braves fans and we can have a bigger community here at On Deck. So please do that. All right, Jorge says Strider is the brave Mets. Oh, Strider is the brave that Mets fan will hate. I am struggling. Strider is the Atlanta Brave that Mets fans will hate the most. Is he the new Chipper Jones? Is that what we're saying? He's certainly the most outspoken. He is certainly the most outspoken. He has been great this year. But a lot of people didn't like what he had to say the other day. I'll be honest with you. I don't think he said anything too out of line. He said that they got a lot of calls. They did. Look at Buckner's scorecard from that day. They got a lot of calls, and he said that straight up that they put the ball in play. They're hard to strike out, and we'll see what it is in October. What else is someone who is a competitor supposed to say? So a lot of people gave him flack for that. I didn't. I really didn't mind it. Is it the best thing he ever said? Maybe not, but I didn't think that it was too out of line. But we'll see. Let's see. Got to get back in my... All right. Nicholas says, Ozuna had zero discipline and feels like he is either hits for power or does nothing, and it feels like he does more of nothing. Yeah, right now it's a lot of fly ball outs and ground ball outs. It's not a whole lot, or strikeouts. So hopefully we'll see it improve. Sean said, I would not let Soroka start, but he should be ready to at least pitch out of the pen by mid-September. Hopefully that's the case, but I'll be honest with you, Sean. I look at that bullpen and I go, well, where can we put him? It's a pretty full bullpen. Who are you going to get rid of, right? To put in there. Now, once rosters expand, anything can happen, but, we'll see. Just Inventory says, Raisel Iglesias looks like the best reliever in the league right now. Mentor, Matzik, Iglesias, and hopefully Jansen hold it down for the regular season. Strider or Soroka end up in the pen for the postseason. In the postseason, a lot of guys end up in the pen, including, I would probably say, Ian Anderson at that point, if he's back right, for long relief. Because, once you go into, especially like a 3-game series, starters become bullpen pieces at that point. And that's for a wild card. Now, if you get to the 7-game series, I still think, you got starters that are going to be, Jake Odorizzi will be a reliever. I think that'll be the case. But we got a pretty good pen. And, we'll see how it goes. But on the go with CeeLo says, sounds like Gwinnett versus Sounds this week. Going to Sounds for... Oh, I see. You wanted to see those guys play. I don't blame you. I would have too. Matthew says Grissom has to be pretty fast. He has stolen 27 bases. Yeah, so there you go. He's fast. Trying to skip around here, guys. I know I got a lot of you guys to answer. Kind of bounced around a good bit. Okay, Matthew says, hey, Tyler, if I am Anderson, surprising everyone and dominates on Saturday, do you still think the Braves will still send him down to make his next start in AAA, or they let him stay in the majors? That's tough because here's the thing, right? Here's the thing with that. Anderson is an interesting one because with him, he's already been optioned, right? He's going to Gwinnett. He might not have a long stay, but he's going to Gwinnett. They see something that is not right, and it is not good. So they need to do something about it, is the way I see it. Now, that being said, if he throws a no-hitter Saturday, things might change, but I think he's going to Gwinnett. Let's see. Jesse Lancaster said if Ronald was hitting 300, he would have 35 to 40 stolen bases already. Well, maybe he does well. Maybe he does well the last half of the season and gets it up. But yeah, he has struggled this summer without a doubt. All right, Corey Carter says, I think Vaughn sticks with us this season, and he, Harris, Contreras, and Strider have big roles for the rest of the season. Baby Braves 2.0. I agree. And a lot of the prospects have really come out of nowhere, and outside of Vaughn Grissom, but Vaughn Grissom, he's a guy, you're in a farm system that's not ranked really high, that kind of thing, and you're kind of overlooked in all of the Major League Baseball spectrum. But he's not the only one. The guys you just mentioned. Strider, we knew was going to be good. We saw him in the minors. You saw clips of him in the minors. But Contreras wasn't like a huge name. And if he was, it was only because of his brother. He comes up to the majors and just starts killing the ball offensively. Harris was a big name around here, but not really across Major League Baseball. He didn't get the Wander Franco treatment, right? But those guys have been very influential to what the Braves have done this year. Robert Wilson wants to know if there is any news on the Shoemake injury. Honestly, no, I have none, unfortunately. Okay, line up. Richard Davis says, Anderson has had a couple of good games and a couple of bad games. They need consistency. I say they send him down for a good game after a good game Saturday. Otherwise, why send him down at all? Agreed. You're not going to waste an option like that. They're going to want to get the most they can get out of Anderson, without a doubt. They're going to want to get as much as they can get out of him. I think the only way to get what Richard is talking about, consistency, the only way to get that is to see him be consistent in the minors. I have a buddy who's in the chat right now who had a funny line the other day. He goes, y'all need to send Anderson on vacation because he's pitching like he wants to be on vacation. And you know what? Give him a vacation. And I don't mean that in any negative way. But give him a change of scenery. Let him fix himself with no pressure. And he's had pressure in the majors. So maybe going to the minors will do that. Rich and Ralph says he's got a Vaughn Grissom autographed prospect card. That's cool, man. That's really cool. Better put it in a case or something. On the go with CeeLo says, great show, Tyler. Love the Braves content. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button if you hadn't already. Shaquille Barnes, wonder who his best friend is. Great content and takes, buddy. Keep it up. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'll probably see him later on tonight at some point. Ralph and Rich, we are clear down at the bottom. Strider and Michael Harris graduated off prospect list, so we are down. He is referring to the farm system. Yeah, I would agree, without a doubt. We're probably falling down, but there's probably one or two prospects in there that can still perform. It's not the entire farm system, that's terrible. It's overall, but there's going to be one or two, frankly, we talked about this guy a good bit, but I'm going to mention him again because I want to, if I could find him, maybe. Cole Phillips, I interviewed him. I did not show him in that early preview of all the interviews, but he is on the channel. This is a guy who you can look forward to seeing in a few years if you want somebody to root for. He is 19 years old. He is 6'3". He throws 100 miles an hour. He's already battled back from Tommy John. I interviewed him. It is on the channel. Guys, if you're looking for a prospect to root for, just go watch this interview. You'll like Cole, I promise. All right, you guys have been so active tonight. I'm trying to keep up, but I had to get a sip of drink. I was about to die. Let me see. Sam says, is Acuna back to 100%? If not, what percent do you think he's at? Well, I'm not a doctor. Everybody, I think, is playing at 100%. And for me, everybody plays hurt, right? I mean, everybody at one point or another plays hurt. Freddie Freeman played with a broken wrist a few years ago in the playoffs, so it's tough to say what percent he's at. I would say he's at least looking like the player he used to be, which hasn't been the case for a lot of this year. That's kind of where I'm at. Corey Carter says, one of the main reasons that I think Dansby returns is because Freddie didn't. Braves don't want to lose two key parts of their club in back-to-back seasons. I would agree with that. The problem is, with Dansby, is we're after the trade deadline now. If it was going to happen, for sure, I would have been a lot more comfortable doing it before the trade deadline and getting it locked up and done. I think Dansby wants to be in Atlanta. I think he wants to go the opposite route of what Freddie did. But if his representation, which I hate to break it to you, is the same representation Freddie had, if that is what is going on, then you can't guarantee that. I don't want to come on here and tell you that, hey, I think this is going to happen, and then it not happen. I think he likely returns. But if he doesn't, it won't surprise me near to the level of what Freeman did. Industry Streetwear says Dodgers would sign Free tomorrow if they could. You're right. We need to lock him up. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. Mike Jones says, bro, I'm bro now. I appreciate that, actually. Bro, you can't let Dansby walk, and he'll definitely take a hometown discount. Look, I thought Freddie would take a hometown discount. Maybe he would have, but, things get shady in business, and things definitely get shady in negotiations. And, we've talked about this over and over again, this Freddie Freeman conversation that we always have to have when discussing these type of things. And it's legit. I mean, it's legit because here's the thing. Regardless of what you think what happened with Freddie, the fact that it's even a question of whether or not his agent did right by him or not, that kind of thing can happen. Players might elect free agency. You gotta hope he'll take a hometown discount. I would feel much better about it if it happened before the trade deadline, because now once the end of the season happens, guess what? He's a free agent, and anything can happen. And at that point, Alex Anthopoulos is in the exact same situation as he was last year with Freddie. Sorry about that, guys. I hate to say that, but Alex Anthopoulos will be right back in the same situation as Freddie was. So it's tough. I can't just come on here and say, yeah, Swanson's definitely coming back. As much as I might like to, which trust me, I would. It just doesn't work like that all of a sudden. Guys, do me a favor. Share this with your share the page with your friends that are Braves fans. Get this out there. I'm trying to grow the channel. We're getting bigger. We're doing things that we're excited about. We want to get this out there to as many of you guys as we can get it to. So as many Braves fans, I don't even care if they're Phillies fans. Just send it to them. See if they like it. I'm pretty bipartisan. I can be. I'm pretty down the middle. Send it to them and just tell them about the channel. Tell them why you like it. Send them an interview or two and get this out there. It really does help me out, and it always does. And, of course, like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. It really does help me out. David says, in the case of Travis d'Arnaud, don't forget that he's already signed for next year at $8 million. Yes, and I believe he has club option for 2024 as well. Yeah, I know that, and that's the case. The problem is, for me, David, is we don't have a minor league catcher anywhere near ready to take over in 2025. I think he resigns until we're done with him. I think he wants to probably finish his career with the Braves if he can. And why not? The dude's been phenomenal. He's the catcher that caught the World Series, all that good stuff. So I don't see a problem with it. All right, I know we're wrapping up. Let me see. We got a couple more questions. I'm going to wrap it up here in about the next 5 minutes. So if you want a question answered, do me a favor and just super chat me, and I'll do it. Cletus and the boys, Jesse, I'm going to get to you. You guys are going to be the last one. So if you got anything, get it in now. Cletus says, I think Ian needs fastball confidence. I would thoroughly agree with you. That being said, maybe he'll get it in the minors. Jesse says, I believe in Anderson 100%. He'll be back soon. I think the Braves do too, Jesse. I really do. I think the Braves believe that Anderson can be back. I think they believe that he can perform and can, do what he needs to do because he's done it before. And we've seen it on the highest of stages. He just this year has been hit around. And I'll tell you this, when it comes to Ian Anderson, I did a deep dive. I went looking at all the possible stats you can think of. I went and did a real, try to find something he's doing wrong. He's pitching the same way. He's throwing the same pitch mix. All the things are the same. So for me, I look at it and I go, well, it looks like he just needs to adjust to what hitters are doing to him. And he does throw a lot of balls. He throws a lot of walks. That needs to be limited. If he can limit that, then you'd be a whole new pitcher. So we'll see. Jesse wants to know, am I going to the Braves versus Mets series? I don't know. I don't believe I have any plans to just yet. That can change. If I was to go, it would be tough because I have work the next morning. But I may make a trip and do that. Very well may do that now that you mention it. So if I'm there, I will probably be back on here, and I'll let you know if I choose to do that. But if I don't, you can always follow me on social media. I post what I'm doing there, so you can follow me there, and I'll get back to you if you want to send me a chat. I usually try to respond there, but the best place to get me is in the comment section, obviously. But follow me there. You can see kind of where I'm going, what I'm doing. Maybe if you're at the game and I'm at the game, you might be able to meet up with me and talk baseball with me there, but that's just an option for you. All right, Lori Lee says Acuna won't get to 100% physically till next year. It was his mental, emotional part that was concerning. I would agree with you. Seeing him celebrate sliding home like that, his teammates feed off of that energy too. I completely agree. We talked about that a lot in that Acuna slump video. We talked a lot about it there because Ozzie Albies, being that Ozzie Albies was gone, I think that makes a bit of an impact on a player like Acuna. So we'll see kind of if it changes, if it gets better. Hopefully it does, but I do think that has something to do with it. Sam Potts says, great show, Tyler. Go Braves. Sam, I hope you're subscribed, and I appreciate you reaching out. Thank you very much. We're kind of winding down. Dylan Holloway, do we have Iglesias for 4 years? I think so. Or we have him for another 3, I think. Let me see. I'll do a quick check for you. I remember. Sorry, it's a new contract. I try to keep grabs of this. He's on a 4-year deal, but he is a free agent in 2026. So we have him through the 2025 season. But that being said, I think it's a team option at that point. So we have him through 2025 at the least. Kaysen says Swanson will come back. He will take the hometown discount. I hope so. I do hope so. Charlie Mayer says, I think Grissom has so much potential. That being said, we definitely need to re-sign Dansby. Agreed. No problem. Dylan and Jesse says the jumper reminded me of the 2020 playoffs. Yes, I completely agree. It was a lot of fun last night. But again, guys, we're probably going to wrap it up with that. Do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, all that good stuff. Get it out there, and I will see you next time right here at On Deck.
Hi, I'm Brian Jordan, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
So I got a call that said, this is Susan Bailey. And I said, yeah, but I'm sorry, I don't know a Susan Bailey. She goes, I'm Henry Aaron's secretary. And I went, yeah. She goes, Henry would like to talk to you. I said, yeah, okay. And he said, how would you like to fly down to Sarasota and look at our pictures? And I said, I would love to. He said, well, when can you do it? Jokingly, I said, tomorrow. He goes, okay, we'll take care of that. I'll meet you at the airport in Atlanta. Susan will have the arrangements. And then I get on a plane with Hank Aaron and fly down to Sarasota. He offers me a job, and I said, well, what team do you want me to manage? He goes, no, he wants you to be a pitching coach.
Hi, this is Phil Necro. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Most guys throw it this way, put the ball back in here, hands come around, and these 2 fingers come into the ball, and stiff wristed, no follow throw, and just low up and goes in the bed. I hope there's no rotation on. The ball comes in there and doesn't bother. It doesn't never do the same thing twice.
This is Kyle Wright, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
One of my favorite moments for your career, as of right now, is actually this past week. It was a show of confidence by Brian Snicker. He left you in the game after bases were loaded. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it was really cool. I went back and I saw that clip on Instagram several times. I'll be honest, I went back and I watched it numerous times. Kind of gave me chills a little bit. It was just really cool. I was kind of lost my command a little bit there. Still made some good pitches, but was definitely getting a little tired. So whenever he said basically left me in the game, I felt like that kind of gave me what I needed to get me over the hump to make a good pitch, get a ground ball back to me, and get out of that inning.
This is Matt Olson. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond. Yeah, it's a pretty cool experience. Not everybody gets this opportunity to kind of set up their roots and be somewhere long term that they grew up and have family and friends. So it happened pretty quick there in spring training, and it was just an opportunity that my wife and I and my family thought that it couldn't pass up. So just jumped on it, and it's been a blast.
Says, Chief, why don't you race Ralph Garr? I said, okay. Said, Ralph Garr wants to race you too. So we started on the first base line on the outfield line. We started, bam, took off running. I beat him by 3 foot.
Mike Vaughn here. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
I'm Kelsey Wingert, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Hey, this is Andrew Jones. You watch On Deck with Tyler.